information, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
I'm...
Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of And I Quote, the live weekly show where we introduce you to a very special guest who is joining us from any and all corners of the nerd universe. We find out a little bit more about them and what projects they have planned for the future. Joining us this week on And I Quote is a very awesome-tacular person. He is a wonderful writer of different novels, of different genres. Please welcome Rick Gangraw. Rick, welcome to the program. How are you?
Hey, Ryan, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for being with us. And for those of you who are watching us live right now, if you have any questions for our guest, Rick, please feel free to leave them in the live chat. Leave them in the comments section. Our producers are going to be monitoring it as we go throughout the course of the show. So to start things off here, Rick, I'm just curious, what were some of your favorite books or writers growing up?
Well, it's interesting. The first novel I read as a kid, it was in sixth grade. My sixth grade teacher, Mr. Hickey, wherever he is now, he picked out Call of the Wild for me. And he said, I think you'll really like this. And when I read that book by Jack London, man, it was like a whole new thing opened up for me. And so Call of the Wild was the first one that really got me interested in reading.
Good pick.
Yeah.
Good pick. I remember reading that book myself when I was younger. I think we had to read it for school at one point or another. I think I read a few pages, and then maybe I put the book down, maybe went over to another store, and I got something known as the Cliff or the Spark Notes, because I may not have been as enthusiastic about reading books back then as I am now as a mature adult, or maybe I'm just, still a kid at heart. Who knows? I'm not sure, but that's a great pick there for you, Rick. Now, my next one for you is, when did you decide to specifically become a writer yourself?
Well, I didn't start writing anything until my kids. I had kids a few years back, and so I would come up with stories for them, just with them as the main characters. And so they would make something that would get their attention and make them laugh. So it was mostly kids' stories at the time. And so that was like maybe 20 years ago, but I never really published them or anything. Didn't know what to do to get a kid's book published. So I would just come up with these stories for the kids, and I'd read each one of the kids their own story, and they would just laugh. And sometimes they would like to be scared, so I'd put little scary things in there, just surprise them. And eventually, as the kids got older, they wanted to be scared more. So I started to write scarier stories. And so my first novel, Secrets in the Ice, is a pretty scary story that for my kids as adults, as they grew up. So it was basically, it's set here where I'm at in Upper Michigan at the cabin on the lake here in the winter, and it's got some scary stuff in it. So it was a little tribute to my kids, to give them a little scare, as an adult now, after all the little things they liked as kids being scared. So that was 2011, I think, was when that was published. So it was 10 years ago when my first novel was published.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And by the way, happy 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think it was 2011. Yep.
Wow. 10 years just goes by like that.
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely crazy. But man, my goodness, trying to scare everybody with your first book. Oh man, keep everyone on the edge of your seat. That's one way to get your kids' attention. That's one way to do it. For sure.
But they enjoyed that kind of stuff,
Yeah. Well, that's good. Whatever works, right? A little bit. Yeah, for sure. Right. Definitely. We all could use a good scare once in a while, I should say.
Right.
So no worries there. Now, what would you say have been some of the biggest rewards of being a writer?
Just the satisfaction of completing a novel is pretty awesome. A lot of people, they look at that and it's an overwhelming task, and just to write a 40 chapter novel or whatever and have it done. That's just when I actually did that, I put all these chapters together and actually had a novel that was like 40, 45 chapters. and it told a full story. That right there was incredibly rewarding. And then also other people come up to me and ask, well, how do you do it? And so I've given some speeches before with some other writers, and being able to help other writers do the same thing, just work one chapter at a time, have each chapter be a scene, and then, just seeing other writers be able to finish a book that they've been struggling with and couldn't figure out how to complete a novel. That's pretty rewarding too. So just some, interior rewards, it's something that's good for myself, being able to complete it and help others complete it. That's been a big thing for me.
All right. Now, on the flip side of things,
it is pretty cool to see the book, when you actually have it in your hands and it's like, wow, this is my book. I wrote this story. That's pretty satisfying too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%. I agree with you 100%. Now, on the flip side of things, what would you say have been some of the biggest challenges of being a writer?
Well, initially I thought, oh wow, I'm going to be able to make a fortune on this. I'll be able to write this thing, it'll be a bestseller. And that's a challenge to get on that bestseller list. So I've been little disappointed with that, not getting on the bestseller list, but there's still a lot of rewards to doing it yourself and sharing it with your friends and your small group of people that are buying them. So there's a lot of satisfaction with that, even though it's disappointing not being on the bestseller list.
Yeah, that can definitely be a tough one. Yes. Yeah. So, do you have any special memories from being at conventions or book signings or other events?
It's pretty amazing when you're sitting there and the buzz of the room. You're sitting there and people are talking to you about your stories, and you just have this incredible buzz that's all around you, and it's pretty interesting to sit and experience that. There's such excitement, inside one of these book signings, and people coming up and getting the autographs, and I like that. I know there was one time when I was there and somebody came up to me and started asking me questions, and it turned out that he was a best-selling author, and he was talking to me about his struggles as well. And so it's pretty cool to who you might meet when you're out there too, and best-selling author coming up and telling me his challenges and asking me questions and asking me advice. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I like that. So that happened a few years ago.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Now, what advice would you have for aspiring writers out there?
Don't give up. I mean, there's a lot of things out there to help people become better writers. And one thing I've done is I've taken some of these books that I've liked, and I've from big authors, and I've done comparisons to them to learn from them, try to find out what they did that worked, what they did that didn't work, what they did that I liked, and I've tried to pick out the best things. And I've compared a whole bunch of big writers, and I've been surprised at how well some of them write, how poorly some of them write, yet they're still big name writers. And so I've tried to take the best of each ones. One of them, James Patterson, of course, he's a big writer, and he's probably one of the better writers. Looking at his writing technique, I don't like all the profanity and stuff that he uses, but he's definitely got a great writing style, and so he's a good one to track. Dean Koontz is another. They're definitely excellent writers in the way that they capture their story, the way that they do their dialogue, the way that they do each chapter. There's so many different things about each one of them. So compare. What I would do is just compare with big name writers and find out how they're doing things that you're having problems with. Like if you're in a writers group and submitting your stories and people are dinging you for your dialogue or dinging you for point of view or something like that, find out how these big name writers are doing those areas, point of view or dialogue, and it'll show you what you're doing wrong or what you could be doing. And so I think it's helped me become a better writer, just seeing how they're doing things and what works and what doesn't work.
Absolutely. And thank you very much for sharing with that. Did you hear that, friends?
Yeah.
Some good pieces of advice there. There's no question about it. Who would you say are some of your favorite writers of today?
One writer that I was surprised at, his name is Ted Decker. He's on the bestseller list sometimes, and he's written some interesting stuff. But I found out he's really a good writer, and his stories really kept me captivated. I don't know if he's big out there, if you've heard of him, or if other people. I'm sure other people have, since he's on bestseller lists. But he's like an unknown. Ted Decker. He's really good. He writes similar to a Dean Koontz style, so he can have some fantasy stuff in there, in with suspense and mystery. So, but he's kind of like a Dean Koontz in a way, but he's I don't know. He's just another one out there that's not quite as big as Dean Koontz or James Patterson or Stephen King. But I do like Ted Decker. Another one is Frank Peretti. I don't know if you've heard of Frank Peretti. He's written a couple of really interesting stuff. So I've read a couple of his, and really a good writer too. Good technique. Unusual names, huh? Yeah.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say they're, unusual names, but I think I've heard a few of them. I've heard Ted Decker. I don't think so, but Frank Peretti, I believe I may have heard that name come across my desk. That's not existent. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. I do have an actual desk. I'm not sure if that name is 100% come across my desk. Right. But I may or may not have heard it. I apologize if I'm not remembering this correctly. But with that being said, some good writers for our audience to check out. And if they're looking for some good summer reading, since we're in the summer season, I mean, the calendar may not officially say summer, but let's face it, it's summer. Okay.
Oh yeah.
If it's Memorial Day weekend and post Memorial Day weekend, it's summer.
That's right.
So live it up, folks. Buy as much books as you can, because my friend and I went to a used bookstore the other day, and I bought myself a few books. Now, granted, some of these books are taking me to a trip back in time, but it was fun to be in that bookstore nonetheless. When you buy 3 books, you can get the 4th one for free. So I say that's a heck of a deal.
There you go.
One more, more books you get, the more money you end up saving. What more can anyone ask?
Yeah, another thing that I've done, I've gone to used bookstores where you can get them for a quarter or something like that, and you can get popular books that are out there. And I've gone through and I've marked up things that I've liked, in these books that you can get for 10 cents or 25 cents or whatever. You highlight things that you really like about the writing style. Mm-hmm. So, then you can toss it away at some point, or you can save it to reference. When you're writing your next book, you've got these good books, but you paid nothing for them, and you can use them up to redline or highlight them or whatever. So yeah, it's a good idea to go out to the used bookstores and buy up a whole bunch of things for a good price.
Absolutely. Support your local businesses, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go. Yep.
Please do. Now that, you're a writer and everything, you've been doing this for a decade now or so. I'm just curious, has your love and passion for writing, has that spread to other members of your family, like your wife or your kids? Have they picked up, a couple of things and said, you know what, I think I want to write something too, Dad. Maybe I'll be the next great writer. Who knows?
Yeah. Some of my kids have talked about it, and I've got a daughter that lives in Austin, Texas, and she went into journalism, and so she's a journalism major, and she's written some stuff, nothing big, nothing published or anything, but yeah, it could kind of rub off on the kids. The kids, they want to try it themselves. They might not be fully immersed in it to where they're going to write a novel or something like that, but they could write kids books or something like that, or my one daughter was talking about doing fashion merchandising, writing stuff for fashion. So it could be.
All right, man. Nothing wrong with that. Wish them the best of luck with that, styling and profiling when it comes to fashion stuff. Okay, I can.
Not my cup of tea, but
there's an audience for it.
There you go. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, whatever genre or whatever type of writing it is, there's got to be an audience for it out there in the world. So can't help with that one. Now, I'm just curious if you don't mind to take a step back here for just a moment. What would you say were some of your favorite movies or TV series growing up, or maybe some of your favorite movies or TV series of today? Any thoughts on that?
I really don't watch much TV today except for old stuff, stuff from when I was growing up. I know I like the campy stuff, the old Batman with Adam West, and those were so great. I loved those as a kid. Scooby-Doo, the mysteries, that's one of the things that got me interested in mysteries too. Scooby-Doo, Gilligan's Island, things like that. I Dream of Jeannie, all those old classics from the 60s. And I've gone through and I bought the old DVDs of these too, so that my kids could watch them. And so, but they don't like them as much as I do. But I'm stuck in the '60s and '70s. I love the old stuff from the '60s and '70s. Yeah.
Does that also include the Munsters?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, Herman Munster, and yeah, those are good.
Because I know they don't do this anymore. This was many years ago, but TV Land used to air reruns of I Dream of Jeannie and the Munsters and all these other classic series, respectively. And that's how I was introduced to the Munsters and I Dream of Jeannie and some of the other ones that took place during that period of time. Yes, I've not a lot, but I've seen a few clips or reruns of the Batman, Adam West, Burt Ward TV series. And yes, I did watch Batman the movie from the 60s. That was, within the same universe as the TV series. I watched it. I'll admit it. It may not be my Batman. That was for a different generation, respectfully. That's a different audience, but I get the zip bang pow thing. Whatever. Look at the movie here, Rick. Look at the movie. He says, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. And then he has a shark repellent bat spray. What? That would never fly in today's world. But for the 60s, things were a bit different.
Yeah. And they knew it was corny at the time, but they still did it. And it was hilarious. They did it with a straight face too. And that's my kind of humor. I like that.
Yeah. They did it and they didn't care. They just ran with it. And I'm thinking to myself, shark repellent bat spray.
Yeah.
Is that real? No, it's not. Absolutely not. Don't get me started. But I understand. There's an audience for it. They're legends. Adam West, Burt Ward, legends in their own right. I get it. It may not be necessarily my cup of tea, but I understand there's a huge following of that era of shows. So I respect that.
Yeah. And they would come in to do all the shows and stuff, the cosplay kind of shows. And they would be there and they'd be the stars and everybody wanted to get their pictures with them and autographs and all. They were real good at that. Adam West and Burt Ward. Yeah.
Yep. I'm not sure if she's still doing any more shows. I'm not sure if she's retired from the shows or not, but I know that Lee Merriweather has done a number of conventions as well as a few other maybe a few other members of the cast and crew of part of that time period. But Lee Merriweather was I think she was at a convention I was at one point, or maybe no, she was scheduled to appear at another one and unfortunately got canceled due to the pandemic. Yeah. But so there you go. Hey, if you want to meet your favorite legends, go right ahead. I mean, the kid who played, I believe it's the Munsters' youngest son, is
Eddie
still doing
Munster.
Conventions.
Yes.
I hope I get it. Yeah, he's very popular on the convention circuit. If I get a chance to meet him, I would love to ask him a bunch of questions about what was it like working with all those legends from their era and working on that set, because the Munsters just looks like a funny, happy go-getter kind of show.
Yeah. He was a lucky kid to be able to be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you still see him out in different shows too. Yeah.
Yep, he was one not far from here in my neck of the woods. It was over the state line in Pennsylvania, but still, I probably would have gone if I had had the time or the schedule. It may not have fallen in with my schedule at the time. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah. Hey, if you get a chance to go to a convention, ladies and gentlemen, when Earth is fully reopened, have fun with it and celebrate it. Be safe about it. That's all I'm going to say. There's your PSA for this Saturday afternoon. There you go. What works. So we were talking about this backstage, and I want to let our audience in on this here for a moment here, Rick. You mentioned that, and by the way, as this show is airing, we are here on Saturday, June the 12th of 2021. Today marks the 40th anniversary of arguably one of the most influential and most celebrated motion pictures of all time, and that would be Steven Spielberg's classic Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
The very first Indiana Jones film turns a happy-go-lucky and healthy 40 years young, and they are in the process of filming Indiana Jones 5. At this age, Harrison Ford is pushing himself further and further to the limit, if not further beyond his limits. Photos from the set have been leaked. They've been released on the interwebs. So if you want to look at those after this show, feel free to do so. But I'm just curious, Rick, you mentioned something backstage, and I want to hear this. What is your history with Raiders of the Lost Ark? Share it with
us. Well, when it came out, I didn't know much about the Lost Ark, and I thought it was Noah's Ark. I thought it was going to be about Noah's Ark. So I thought, oh, my wife's going to love this. It's a movie about trying to find Noah's Ark. So we went there, and it's like, no, this doesn't have anything to do with Noah. So I learned a little bit, but it was kind of embarrassing at first. My wife was kidding me about it, but yeah, it was our very first date that we went on. So we saw it when it was in the movie theaters, and so I found out it wasn't Noah's Ark. So a little embarrassing. But I learned.
Eh, I take it you've rewatched the film a number of times as we've gone throughout history with your wife and your kids. Have they been exposed to the greatness that is Indiana Jones?
Yes, definitely. They've seen all of the Indiana Jones movies. Yeah. Yeah, but the first one, it's the best one. It's. I mean, you don't expect it, and when you see the very first one, it's like, wow, this character is awesome, and all the great things that, his expressions and everything about it. It was just an excellent movie, better than the other ones, I think. Although the one with Sean Connery in it was pretty cool too, with him as the father. Yeah, that was pretty. The Last Crusade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you can dog a few of the films in the series, but don't dog down my Last Crusade, because that was my first exposure to the character in the universe. Yeah. It was Indiana Jones. I saw the movies out of order. I saw Last Crusade, then it was Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and then I went back and watched Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Temple of Doom. I'm thinking to myself, okay, Raiders is great. Temple of Doom, not so much. Yeah. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it's But at the end of the day, I'm thinking to myself, interdimensional beings is just another way of saying they're aliens, Indy. Aliens. And I'm thinking, that's not Indiana Jones. And aliens aren't real. And don't tell me, oh, yeah, well, if you don't think they're real, then what do you think about the recent UFO sightings that the news has been reported? Don't give me that. And also, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is, I mean, don't get me wrong, it had its moments, especially when you bring in the John Williams score. Don't get me wrong. But interdimensional beings, that's just not real. When Indy goes after actual like artifacts that I can actually see exist, I mean, the Ark is a real thing. The Holy Grail to me is a real thing. Maybe not the whole, when you sip it, you get eternal life kind of thing. That was playing with creative control. But I can still see it like actually existing in my head. And I can see it existing in real life, respectfully, of course. But yeah, Last Crusade. And I keep telling people, since I'm one of the youngest members, and I'll let you in on this here, Rick. My first cosplay was Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah, nice.
When I started my own conventions, I went as Indiana Jones, and no one broke the cardinal sin. No one called me Junior, but if anyone says it, I'm going to look him dead in the eye. I'm going to give him the fourth finger, because as we all know, Harrison Ford loves to point this finger. You see this? I'm going to point the finger at somebody. I'm going to say, don't call me Junior. It's just, I'm going to let out my Harrison Ford on you. Okay. So I'm going to give you the fourth finger. I'm going to say to you, I may be the youngest in some of these cosplay groups that I'm a part of. One of the younger members anyway. Don't call me Junior. Okay. Seriously. And then someone's going to come up to me and say, what does this always mean that this Junior, that's his name? Henry Jones Jr. I like Indiana. We named the dog Indiana. I mean, it's don't get me started, ladies and gentlemen. Don't get me started. But no, that's a great history there. It's classic. So I just out of curiosity, I know this may be taking a step behind the curtain and behind the scenes, but I'm just curious. Are you and the missus going to plan on watching Raiders tonight to celebrate the 40th anniversary?
Well, actually, where we're at, we don't have cable or anything like that. So we're kind of out in the woods, separated we're isolated off the grid. So, but we do have it at home. So we'll watch it at home when we get back home. Yeah.
No worries. I was just
there and hear it. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, all good, man. All good. I was just, hey, it's the 40th anniversary. It played a big part in your life. I was just curious if you were going to rewatch it for the 100th time. It's no biggie. It's no biggie. But yeah, that was my first cosplay. So that was certainly a lot of fun. Wow, the search for Noah's Ark, huh?
Yeah. Whoops.
I mean, granted, it is something that, Indy hypothetically could maybe look for if they put that in an Indiana Jones film. I have no idea what's going on with Indiana Jones 5. I don't think the title has been revealed as of yet. But Harrison Ford, you wearing the suit again? I mean, don't get me wrong. The outfit looks good, but we can tell you've aged in those photos. No offense, Harrison, but I don't know how this Indiana Jones 5 thing is going to work. I really don't.
Yeah, I was surprised that he did some of those stunts that he was doing in that last one too. I don't know, what was he, 60 years old, 70 years old in that last one? And he was doing some of those stunts himself, it looked like.
Yeah, and I believe someone reported earlier that when this film comes out, the new one, just to be clear, Indiana Jones 5, he's going to be 80. Right.
Wow.
He's going to be 80 when this comes out. I'm thinking to myself, how are you doing? I don't get it. You know what, Harrison? We're going to leave you to do whatever it is that you do on set. But we wish you the best. Yeah. Please don't hurt yourself. Don't overexert yourself. And if you need a stunt double, call them in.
Yep. Yep.
We don't want anything happening to you whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oh,
What a great character, though, Indiana Jones, man. What a great character for any writer to come up with. You know, that's something to be proud of.
5 movies
Yeah.
in 40 years.
Yeah.
Man, it's a crazy number, crazy amount of years. Some of you who may be watching or listening to this may feel a bit old. Maybe you feel young. You know what they say, Rick? Age is just a number.
That's right. That's right.
So speaking of history, we talked about Indiana Jones, and his movies take place within the 1930s. The fourth one took place in the 1950s. But I want to ask you about something. I had the chance to sit down and read one of your books, and I believe it's your most recent book. It's called A High Price to Pay. Now, this takes place during the events of the Civil War, and I got to say, after reading this book, I've read some books as of late during the unfortunate situation that we've all been in with the pandemic and its toll it's taken on all of us. Reading these books, of all the books that I've read, this is my favorite one that I have read in a very, very long time. It's called A High Price to Pay by this young man who is with us today, Rick Gangraw. And I got to ask you, A High Price to Pay. How did you come up with the idea for this story? What was the process like? And what has it been like since the book has come out? What has been the response to this?
You know, I was afraid that people might be criticizing me because there's a Confederate flag on the front, and there's a big backlash against Confederate flags. And I was writing a story where the main characters are Confederates, and apparently it's not very popular to be a Confederate, you know, to even nowadays, you know, to have a character that's a Confederate soldier. But it's been very positive, you know. I was pleasantly surprised that I haven't got any people chewing me out because I've got a Confederate flag on the front cover and, you know, burning the book or whatever. And it's mostly my family were poor farmers, and they couldn't own slaves, and they wouldn't have owned slaves even if they could. So a lot of the people in the Confederacy, the Confederate Army, were the same way. They were poor farmers, and many of them didn't volunteer. Many of them were just drafted too. There are huge numbers of people that were drafted by the Confederate government. They didn't want to fight, but they were drafted and forced to do it. And, you know, they weren't pro-slavery. Plus, you have the government. The Southern government was tricking people. They were pushing. Oh, these Northerners, they're invaders. You know, they're invading our South. You know, we got to kick them out. It's like the Revolutionary War where the British were coming in and doing all this. So they equated that to the poor young people of the South, that we've got to defend our land the way our ancestors did with the British. So a lot of them were kind of tricked into it. And I really wanted to write that story, you know, and I took a lot of my own family history too. My grandmother used to tell us stories about her grandfather and her great grandfather that were in the war. And so they were passed down to her by her grandmother. And so she would tell my mom and tell me. And so I wanted to put some of those stories into this story and try to get it out to show that, you know, not all the Confederate Army were pro-slavery, that they were actually good people in the Confederate Army. And, you know, they didn't want slavery, and they weren't fighting for slavery. But that's the way history looks at it. A lot of the history people now say, oh, well, the Confederacy, they were fighting for slavery. And well, I think the leaders were, you know, the Southern leaders wanted that, but the average person, no, they didn't. They weren't fighting for slavery. So I wanted to put that into a story. And so I put some of my own family history into it, and it turned out really good. I've got all kinds of positive responses too. Some of the reviews have been really friendly, and like what you were saying, that's very complimentary, and I really appreciate that too. So thanks a lot. Thanks for your comments on it too.
Oh, you're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. I think I actually took the liberty of writing a review for it. If I haven't, I will take care of it momentarily on Goodreads. I recommended the book on Goodreads, and it's a fantastic book written from this character's point of view. And the thing that really struck me the most about this story is that this character, in the very beginning, they believe in what they're doing. They're thinking to themselves, this is what I have to do. I have to do this. We have to fight this enemy. We have to combat this whole thing. We got to get certain things back in order. And the only way we can do this is if we fight. And he goes into this situation. And then I don't want to give away too much in the realm of spoilers, because I want to invite our audience out there to please check out this book. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. Great story. But this character questions himself during certain parts of the story. And you don't really see or read about that in other books that I've read and other stories that I've been reading as well, it's just truly amazing to me how this person, I believe in what I'm doing. And then, a month or so later, timeline wise, into this story, they're thinking to themselves, wait a minute. This was the right thing to do in the beginning, but maybe I'm not supposed to be taking the next step. Maybe I'm not supposed to be going to this place. Maybe I'm not supposed to be fighting this battle, or maybe I'm supposed to hang back and help my fellow soldiers, or go back home to be with my loved ones, my family, my friends, all the people who care about me most. It's just mind-boggling to me how great the story is and how much the character questions themselves almost every few steps of the way within their journey. And I hope to see this in more books as we go forward, because I don't read this a lot in other books. So I absolutely love it. And this book kind of reminded me, just not a lot, but it did kind of remind me of my favorite war film known as Glory. Now, granted, that was a story about a regiment who fought for the North, but at the same time, it still takes place during that dark period of history. Mm-hmm. So you still get some similar things, maybe a few themes within that story. And then the other thing this reminded me, I'm not sure, maybe you've seen this, maybe you haven't. There was a TV series that aired not too long ago on AMC, and it took place post-Civil War. It was called Hell on Wheels. And it was about a former Confederate soldier, Colin Bohannon, played by Anson Mount, and it was a 5-season run. Only had, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it had like less than 100 episodes, but it was really, really good. It aired on AMC for 5 years. It was about a former Confederate soldier finding the people who are responsible for killing his wife and child. So you want to talk about someone who's upset and wants to go to, maybe not so much go to war, but wants to fight and get revenge for the death of loved ones. That's another really good story. Granted, it may take place a little bit after the events of the Civil War, but it's still within that time period where things were very much, disturbing, and still crazy things were going on, and people were trying to find themselves, trying to find out what was the real right thing to do, what was wrong with the country, and how could they rebuild it? That was the thing. How could we rebuild this whole thing after this devastating set of events? So if you haven't seen this, Rick, I would recommend you check it out when you have an opportunity. It's called Hell on Wheels. It's on streaming. I believe it's on Netflix right now. If it's not on Netflix, check out your streaming service, because Lord knows there's a million of them. So, so check out Hell on Wheels. Good stuff there. And if you haven't seen the war film known as Glory with Denzel Washington, Matthew Broderick, Carrie Elways, my goodness gracious, one of the best war films ever made. Check that out. Strongly recommend. But once again, Rick, congratulations on the success of this book right here. This is just
thank you.
Amazing, amazing stuff. Now, my next question to you is, well, actually, before we get to that question, let's take a step outside of the whole historical realm for just a moment. I'm just curious, do you have any superstitions?
No, I really don't. It's funny. My great grandmother was super superstitious, and she would have all kinds of funny things. Some things that just make you laugh, thinking that she really believed those. But no, as far as I know, I don't have anything superstitious at all. Playing baseball, a lot of times when you're on a winning streak or something, you want to keep doing something like don't shave until while the streak's going on, don't shave and things like that. I don't know. A lot of people do things like that. I might do it just for fun, but nothing really superstitious. Why do you ask?
Oh, I have some questions here, and I'm trying to just having some fun, just keeping you on your toes a little bit. That's all. No worries. It's nothing personal. I'm just trying to have a little bit of fun here on this program.
No worries.
Well, how about this one? Which celebrity chef would you most like to make you dinner?
I don't know. Maybe Rachel Ray. Is that an unusual one? Did you expect that?
No. I've seen her show here and there. I've seen her appearances on Food Network or other channels in and around the cable systems. Yeah, she's got a good personality.
Yeah. Another one I like is the Cajun food. So I know there was a Cajun guy. I can't remember the guy's name, but he spoke with his thick Cajun accent, and he would do these Cajun meals, and I loved some Cajun food too. So that guy would be pretty cool too. I'm not sure if he's still alive though. He was older a few years ago.
Huh.
Yeah, I can't think of his name though.
Yeah, if anyone does know the name of this person that Rick is trying to come up with, please feel free to let us know in the live chat in the comment section. If you have any questions for Rick as well, feel free to leave those in the comment section as well. Producer's going to be mine too as we go throughout the course of the show. So on that note, what would be the worst movie sequel ever made?
Well, you were talking about Indiana Jones, and unfortunately, the second Indiana Jones was a huge letdown. The Temple of Doom one. I saw the first one, and you think, oh my gosh, you want to see the next one. You want to see the next one, and then when Temple of Doom came out, boom! What a loser. Unfortunately, I didn't go for it very well. So that was one of them I didn't care for too well.
Yeah. Any other ones that spring to mind?
Nothing that really jumps out at me. No, I can't really think of anything that jumps out.
No, it's all good.
I'm sure
it's all good.
There's probably quite a few though. But,
yeah, not all franchises are created equal, and not all franchises have wonderful sequels that come after their originals. Granted, there are exceptions to the rule. For instance, Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. Now I was thinking other Harrison Ford movies too. And it's like, wow. Yeah, the first one, the first Star Wars was pretty awesome, but Empire Strikes Back was very good. Good sequel.
Yep. And that one just turned 40 last year.
Yeah.
So not to make anyone feel not to make anyone else feel young, but
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, there's exceptions to the rule, such as Empire Strikes Back. I'm trying to think of other examples where the sequel is almost as good, if not better, than the original. But Empire is definitely the first one that jumps out to me. I'm just trying to think of. Is there another one? Oh yeah, well here's one. I know it's not necessarily a sequel per se, but it does take place in the same universe. So let's just put it that way. You know how they came out with all the Star Trek movies back in the day?
Right.
Well, the ones featuring the Next Generation cast, their first film, even though it was a bit of a mashup, it was more of a passing of the torch movie, which was Star Trek Generations, where Kirk passed on the torch to Picard. Well, the movie that came after that, which I guess you sort of kind of could count as a sequel, if not just a standalone, Star Trek First Contact.
Yeah.
Great sequel. Great movie. Fantastic. It's actually my favorite original, not counting the rebooted J.J. Abrams trilogy, which I did actually just sat down and rewatch most recently, which was fun. It was fun. But my favorite Star Trek movie has to be First Contact.
Yeah.
I'm going with Picard. I like Patrick Stewart. I can't help it.
Yeah. Good character.
Oh man, the guy's the guy is like a boss. He just knows. Picard knows what he's doing. Like 99, like pretty much 100% of the time. If I go up to Picard right now and ask him what should I do with the situation, he will know what to do because he's just that darn good.
Right.
But that's just my 2 cents on the matter. If anyone else feels differently, let us know in the chat. Now, how about this one here for you, Rick? Have you ever worn clothing with the labels or the tags still attached to them?
Definitely not on purpose. No, I think I'm pretty good about taking them off before I wear them. But it's possible I might have had something on me by accident without realizing it, and my wife probably yanked it off and said, "Get this out of here." Yeah. Now nowadays, I think some of the kids would probably wear it on purpose. Wear the tags on purpose. Maybe.
Oh, well, that could be fascinating. You never know. We'll leave that up to them. Now, moving forward here, Rick, I got to ask you, any upcoming projects that you can tell us about?
Yeah, I'm writing a story about the Acadians that came over from France. It's a historical fiction, but it's going to go back and forth between modern times and 1760s. So it's going to have a few a chapter here of the 1760s, what's going on in Nova Scotia area, where the Acadians came over and they settled in that area in Canada. And then the English came in and deported them. They basically came in, took over the French lands, the French territories, and just kicked all the French out and sent them back to Europe or down to Louisiana. So the Acadians became the Acadians of Nova Scotia became the Cajuns of Louisiana. And so it's going to be including it's going to have a story about one of the families that was deported out of there, and the British soldier that's coming after them, that's trying to he thinks they have some gold or something, a fortune, and so he thinks that they got away with that fortune that he wanted. So the British soldier is going after them and tracking them in Louisiana. But then I'm also having modern day stuff where the descendants of those people are visiting in Louisiana, and so it kind of ties in with modern times as well. So it's going to be a historical fiction with some of my normal modern humor as well. And it's going to have some of the same characters from my first novel as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I haven't done that yet. I've always had each novel as standalone. So I'm going to pull some of my popular characters from the first novel into this new novel as well.
So when the new one comes out, what was the name of your first novel, just in case people want to go back and check that one out?
Well, the first one is Secrets in the Ice, and that's the one that's set in Upper Michigan in the winter. And so those characters are going to go back down to Louisiana. I guess the wife is going to be from Louisiana, so they're going to go down there and visit her grandmother, and so that's how the Cajun's going to fit into the story.
My goodness gracious! Well, Rick Gangraw, you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
All right.
So that sounds wonderful. And we want to take this opportunity to thank Rick Gangraw for being with us here on this episode of And I Quote. Rick, where can everyone follow you on social media and all the projects you have coming up?
Well, I do have a YouTube channel, and I've got some of my book trailers where you can see it's like a movie trailer, but it's just a trailer for the book. Those are on the YouTube channel. And then I've got my Facebook author page, and I've got my own website too, rickgangraw.com. So you can go there and see some updates as well there.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us. And all the links are in the description of this video, so you can keep up to date with everything that's going on with the upcoming story. And if you want to go back and check out some of his past novels, please do. You will not regret it. You're going to like the way these books are looking. I guarantee it. That was my way of inserting an old school commercial into a new school ad, but I may have made a mistake here and there, but that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we want to take this opportunity to thank you for being with us. And also, if you were wondering, where do those questions come from? If you had to pick a celebrity chef to make you dinner, or do you have any superstitions of your own? If you're wondering where those questions came from, well, this episode of And I Quote and every episode of And I Quote is powered by Poddex. Poddex are the hottest new tool for podcasters looking to have more meaningful conversations or gamify their podcast. Simply shuffle them up, ask a question, let the content roll. Get yours today at poddex.com. Make sure you use promo code NerdCulture to get 10% off your order. You're not going to want to miss it. And once again, my name is Ryan of Nerd Culture. You can follow us here on all forms of social media at It's Nerd Culture. Check out our YouTube channel where we post new content each and every week. We've surpassed over 500 subscribers. We want to thank all of you who have liked, who have commented, who have shared our videos, whether you're just joining us or whether you've been with us from the beginning. We really, really appreciate it. So to all of you out there, we want to take this opportunity to thank you once again. Thank you to Rick for being with us. And also, stay healthy, stay strong, stay safe, and most importantly, read more books. Take care, everyone.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Rick.
Welcome, Glasscock Park, to this glorious day.
Today is your lucky day. We got some great stuff. This is Glasscock Park.
Marvelous.
Thank you.
Come on, let's go, let's go. I don't have all day, people.
Now, it's time.
Tell your friends, huh?
I'm GW Pomacher.
I'm Dina Marie.
I'm Sage Ia.
I'm Thomas Carter Rochester.
Hey, I'm David Thompson.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Mia.
Hi, I'm Mark.
Hey there, this is Dave Adams.
Hi, I'm Rosemary Rose.
Jerome Conner here.
Hey guys, it's Josh Bauer.
It's Willow Schuyler.
I'm Cosplay Michael.
I'm Brava.
It's your boy Country.
I'm Ryan Permison.
And I'd like to ask you guys, please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please, please, please
Subscribe.
subscribe.
Subscribe. Subscribe.
Please subscribe to HWWS
Web TV.
Great bunch of people.
And don't forget to smash the bell.
Ring that bell.
Smash that bell.
Hit that bell.
Hit the bell to be notified.
Hit the bell to get notified of new shows
And videos. You're going to want to do that, so do that soon.
So we can cross that 20,000 mark.
and get us to 100,000 subscribers.
To 1 million and 10 million and 100 million.
On HWWS.
Web TV.
You really like it. I guarantee it.
Thank you.